It's it's incredibly interesting. There is so much cool stuff. I mean, there's just all these little tiny niche neighborhoods. And it's like, oh, here's the Indian neighborhood, and oh, here's the little Chinese neighborhood, and oh wow, check out listen to the gospel coming out of this church on Sunday. It's amazing. And I didn't really get that much of that in Boulder. In Boulder, we pretty much have every kind of white person you can imagine, and this is. This is far more interesting and fun, except you don't have the mountains. I'm sorry, you know. One thing that really strikes me is that there's such an emphasis, especially with the Obama administration coming on energy, and a lot of it is focused toward renewable energy. But being a journalist covering the energy business for about 20 years, one thing that strikes me is the biggest and most cost-effective opportunity for energy has always been energy efficiency in existing and new buildings. Oakland is full of buildings that have tons of opportunities for energy efficiency. I mean, because the occupancy rates are really high here. You don't have a whole lot of housing stock going vacant around here. Mm-hmm. People are in these spaces, and I would love to know what there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of weatherization work, insulation, windows, roofing projects. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm working around in February, but it seems like people are basically just letting all this energy go out their windows, literally. What is the problem there? Because I know in a lot of other areas, there are very successful programs to increase building energy efficiency. Would you rather the state of California and PG&E be putting money into building another coal plant, or building another natural gas plant, or buying power off the grid, or actually sinking it into the housing stock where it's doing a whole lot of good in a whole lot of ways at zero emissions? Usually it's a funding issue or a bureaucratic issue or a legislative issue that's preventing these sorts of programs from happening. And right now, especially air quality in California is always a huge deal. In general, that I've been thinking about spot us, it would be looking at issues and saying, why the hell isn't this happening? Where is that? Rather than the conventional, oh, here's something happening out here, let's go cover it. It's like, why isn't this happening? That tends to get very interesting in terms of interviews and delving into it. And it's because news doesn't generally break. It oozes, it creeps, it skulks along. And a lot of the best skulking stories have come not from what is, but why isn't. Yeah, what's a problem that's bugging them? Okay, I bet a lot of people are bitching about their utility bills. Okay, power is expensive in this area. Okay, so why are their power bills so high, and what can they do about it? And then if there's a potential solution that ain't happening, why not? That could also happen with things like access to public transit. I understand you've got a lot of public transit around here, but it's much easier in some areas than in others, and usually the people who need it the most have the least access to it. I mean, all up and down around the BART stations, the rents are a lot higher. So the people who usually already own their own cars are the ones who are taking up the apartments so close to the BART stations. Mm-hmm. I would say it's going to be, a lot of my friends are journalists, and it really hurts to see this happen, because every time that happens, it's like, I know people there, and they're going to be out of jobs, and yeah, good luck trying to find something else, because that industry is imploding. Those jobs will cease to exist, except at very few organizations. And people who have been journalists have kind of thought themselves into a box, and are finding it very difficult to imagine doing journalism that doesn't look like a traditional newsroom. And so I'm sad about that on two fronts. I'm also thinking that, and this is the ghoulish part of me, opportunity. Right. There's going to be a vacuum. What's going to step in there? And it'll be interesting to see. I don't think the traditional mechanism of relying on print advertising as the core revenue model will work for any media organization. anymore. It just doesn't run like that. I think there are a lot of opportunities to do things with partnerships and sponsored content, and to do value-added products on top of it. In fact, Washington Post and Wall Street Journal, they both have wine services. They're both selling wine. The model of a news organization mainly making money off of being the main vehicle of advertising for an area only worked in an era when access to information was limited. It ain't that way anymore. And that means you actually have to provide some additional value that people are willing to pay for. I think people are willing to pay for some sorts of news and analysis or information. It's not going to be the consumer level stuff. I do a fair amount of work with stuff related to the energy industry. You better believe those publications are selling for more money than ever. Their newsletters, their conference calls, all sorts of things. They are cleaning up because there's such a demand for high level news and information in that particular industry. They will pay big bucks for it. That's not going to happen with who got mugged this week.